While the chef was grilling steaks on the grill, the housekeepers served the appetizers. Warren smiled broadly. "I'm receiving quite the warm welcome today." The awkward atmosphere was brief. We enjoyed our meal and talked comfortably. He actively asked questions about OTK Company. He was particularly curious about Take-You. OTK Company became known in the financial world after the L6 incident. While later investments are relatively well known, not much is known about prior events. The fact that we decided to split the initial investment evenly isn't mentioned anywhere. Warren was surprised to hear this. "So you originally agreed to split the profits, but you gave up your share of $200 million? Take-You said it as if showing off. "I helped Jin-Hoo a bit." Then, as Take-You mentioned that he took 3% of his share to include Hyunju's sister, Warren was genuinely impressed. "Now I see there really was an exceptional investor." "It's true. If it weren't for Take-You, there wouldn't be an OTK Company today." Investment doesn't always require direct involvement. Trusting someone skilled at investing with your money is also a form of investment. In fact, those who entrusted money to Warren Buffett long ago made incredible profits. Warren kept asking questions during the meal, and Take-You diligently shared our investment experiences. Of course, he left out parts regarding Oracle. "Is this lunch with Warren Buffett, or lunch with Take-You?" Warren joked. "I never thought Ronald would be elected. I really dislike that guy." Ronald is a president from a real estate tycoon background. Because of this, they have met a few times in the past, but it is known that their relationship is not very good. Anyway, Warren Buffett is a typical supporter of the Democratic Party. He strongly opposed Ronald's tax cuts, arguing instead that corporate and income taxes should be raised so the wealthy pay more. In response, Ronald ridiculed Buffett on Twitter, saying that Berkshire Hathaway is a company that employs all sorts of tricks to pay less tax. It is true that there are criticisms of this double standard. However, Berkshire Hathaway's tax avoidance operates strictly within legal frameworks. As long as the methods are legal, nothing can really be said about it. It is natural for companies to seek maximum profit within an established system. The government must create and control the system to ensure that growth and distribution can occur smoothly. Throughout our meal, Warren consumed Coke like water. "How many glasses has that been already?" "I've heard the rumors, but he really loves Coke. Seeing him like this makes me think that fast food and Coke being unhealthy is all nonsense. After all, Winston Churchill smoked heavily but lived to 90. Jiang Qing, who enjoyed alcohol, cigarettes and drugs, lived past 100. Looking at this, it seems like people who are meant to live long just do." We toasted with Coke. Warren smiled and said, "Did you know that a Soviet general loved Coca-Cola so much that he secretly drank clear cola to avoid being seen?" "Clear cola. If cola is clear, isn't it just soda?" Thinking this, Take-You said, "You mean Zhukov?" "Haha, that's right." Zhukov, who played a significant role as a Soviet commander during the Russian Civil War and World War II, was said to love cola. However, cola is a drink of capitalist American imperialists. Concerned about being purged by Stalin, he requested transparent cola disguised as vodka. Take-You shrugged his shoulders. That's a famous story among military enthusiasts." Not being a military enthusiast, Warren didn't know. Warren asked Take-You joyfully, "So, is it true that Fanta, one of the Coca-Cola brands, was created because of the war?" "Of course. Is there anyone who doesn't know that? Isn't it more likely that there are more people who don't know?" The two chatted extensively about Coca-Cola. Eventually, they even discussed Santa Claus costumes. At first, Take-You's awkwardness about creating the gathering worried me, but I never expected them to hit it off so well. In the harmonious atmosphere, Hyunju suddenly asked a question she had been pondering. "If there are several attractive investment targets, which one should I choose?" Warren answered her. "It's difficult to excel at everything. I would first consider where not to invest rather than where to invest. What is the principle to avoid losses? Recognizing the point at which you can no longer generate profits. And when you realize that, you must stop. Most people fail to stop not because they don't know that point, but because they know it and still take one more step forward." Once the conversation started, it seemed it would never end. Warren shared various pieces of advice along with his experiences. Managing money well is even harder than making money. When money accumulates, it gains power in itself. If misused, it can cause significant damage to many people. If a fortune is merely tens or hundreds of billions, one can use it as they wish. However, when it exceeds tens of trillions, the situation changes. How that money is spent can create huge waves in society and the economy. Once, there was an event where a charity sent shoes to children in Africa. What do you think happened? The barefoot children must have gotten shoes. Upon Takeyu's answer, he nodded. But there was a large shoe factory in that country. The shoes from that factory were of poor quality and expensive. Ultimately, the factory went bankrupt. The bank that lent them money suffered significant losses, and all the workers became unemployed. They got a pair of shoes for free, though. To develop the economy, investment is necessary, and investment requires capital. However, developing countries lack capital and have low-quality labor. Thus, in the early stages of economic development, they can only focus on labor-intensive light industries. Only by gathering initial capital can they move toward large-scale investments in heavy and chemical industries later. However, during this time, financial conditions remain poor, forcing support for specific companies. Consequently, countries that rapidly develop their economies inevitably experience monopolies by a few companies and issues of wealth disparity. Even the key industries and advanced sectors that Korea boasts, such as automobiles and semiconductors, were fundamentally supported by the foreign currency earned by workers in past wig factories and clothing factories. But what if basic necessities are provided for free to that country? If done improperly, it could hinder that nation's industrial development. Then that country would remain a developing nation dependent on aid. A path wrapped in goodwill can lead to hell. Of course, the opposite can also be true. Good intentions can lead to bad outcomes, while bad intentions can yield good results. Especially in developing countries where information is not transparently disclosed, NGOs can meddle and politicians and bureaucrats can embezzle funds frequently. Thus, in recent times, the methods of giving have changed significantly. Instead of just giving money, we build social infrastructure like roads, schools, and hospitals, transfer technology, or create jobs to help with self-sufficiency. Ellie responded with a surprised expression. Donating isn't easy either. Fortunately, the chaebols in our country don't have to worry about this, because they all pass it on to their children. Upon hearing my words, Taekyu said one thing. Instead, don't they just think about ways to evade inheritance tax? After the meal, I had a private conversation with Warren Buffett in the second-floor study. I've been intrigued by OTK companies' investments for a while. I've never seen such an extreme investment approach before. Just as each Go player has their own style, investors also have their unique approaches. Consequently, the target, duration, and methods of investment vary. However, I have indeed oscillated between short and long positions in my investments. This happened because I moved according to foresight, but it must seem curious to others why I invest that way. To be honest, I thought it wouldn't last long. I smiled. I had heard similar comments when I met Chase Southwell some time ago. Warren Buffett had received numerous questions about OTK Company and me from the media, and each time he generally responded negatively. He believed my investment method was too aggressive and reckless, susceptible to small variables and minor mistakes. That thought persisted even after Brexit. But recently my perspective has changed. Why is that? The risk comes from not knowing what you are doing. If you, CEO Kong, knew exactly what you were doing and proceeded accordingly, it wouldn't have been a risky investment. But if you asked me to do the same, I definitely couldn't. I forced a smile. If it weren't for my ability of foresight, I wouldn't have been able to approach it that way. Investing doesn't guarantee success. Trials and failures are inevitable. The prospect of earning astronomical profits in an instant also means the potential to lose everything in a heartbeat. At first glance, it may appear dazzling and impressive, but a single misstep can lead to a plunge off a 1,000-foot cliff. Therefore, currently, even hedge funds tend to avoid such investment styles. I have a question to ask you, Seo Kong. What is it? Warren Buffett looked at me and inquired. What do you think investment is? I answered as thoughts came to my mind. It's about making money. If you have enough money, why do you continue to invest? I couldn't respond immediately. Initially, it was an opportunity one started without much thought due to Takeyu's suggestion. I had a chance to earn money and continued to seize it. In the process, my assets grew endlessly, to the point of influencing the world economy. I had already earned enough money to last a lifetime. So why do I keep investing? The biggest reason might be my bad relationship with Unsung Motors. Because of them, my house was ruined and my father passed away. At one time I lived as if I had forgotten, but now I feel I have the power to confront them. Perhaps I could even bring down Unsung Motors. I wouldn't say I lack the desire for more wealth and fame. Now my every word attracts the attention of the media and the political/business world, and celebrities want to meet me. If I hadn't invested, I wouldn't be having lunch with Warren Buffett at my home. Perhaps I could leave my name in history as a great investor like Peter Lynch, Benjamin Graham, John Templeton, George Soros, Jim Rogers, Carl Icahn, and Warren Buffett, who sits in front of me. But is that really everything? I looked at Warren Buffett's face. Most wealthy people live in nice houses, drive luxury cars, and wear designer clothes. But he has lived in a $30,000 house, now worth only $500,000, for decades, and he has been driving the same car for over 10 years. His clothes are also very ordinary. Looking at his appearance, no one would think he is rich. What does money mean to him? Do you know the answer? He smiled gently. Of course. But I can't tell you. That's the answer I've found. You will have to find your own answer, CEO Kong. We all headed to OTK Company. Employees gathered in the company auditorium warmly welcomed Warren Buffett. One employee even had a picket sign. It turned out to be Zhang Jiahong, the head of the PR team. Warren greeted each of the over 50 employees individually. He then gave a short lecture lasting about 20 minutes, focusing more on his life than on investment. There was also a Q&A, a session where employees could directly ask Warren Buffett questions and hear his answers. Afterward, Warren took photos with the employees and provided autographs. He is scheduled to meet Chairman Im Jin-yong tomorrow morning before heading to Bali for a vacation. His wife is said to have arrived in Bali earlier. We exchanged farewells. Warren held my hand and said, "I really had a great time today. When will you come visit us at Eden's?" The Berkshire Hathaway employees also want to meet CEO Kong Jin-hoo. I nodded in response. I will come anytime if you invite me. Soon it will be my mother's birthday. I headed to the gallery department store with Take-You. Neither of us is particularly interested in shopping, except for electronics or games. Worse than the wealthy spending extravagantly is when they don't spend at all. For the economy to function well, rich people need to consume actively and pay taxes diligently. Considering this, it's true that we don't consume enough compared to what we earn, although we do invest a lot. Even on a weekday afternoon, the department store was bustling with people. There were long lines in front of famous luxury brand stores. Fortunately, since we were there to pick up pre-ordered items, we could go straight in. Once we entered the store, Take-You mumbled, "Why is there a line when it's so empty?" They say it's to ensure the best service, with a one-to-one interaction between staff and customers. Maybe they just want to show it's a high-end store that only a few can enter? Maybe that's part of it. I accepted the bag and made the payment. Hearing the price, Take-You was taken aback. "What's so expensive? Is it really okay for a bag to cost over 10 million won? Is it fine for a TV to cost over 50 million won? With TVs, the more expensive they are, the better the performance. A bag has the same logic. Does the performance get better? The perception around you improves. The greater the gap between price and value, the more expensive it feels. This is one of the characteristics of what are called luxury items. No matter how much money I spend, with my mother's personality, she wouldn't buy such luxury items herself. So her son should give it to her as a gift. She might be a bit shocked if she knows the price, but deep down she'll like it." Take-You stuffed his hands into his pockets and looked around. "Since we're here, should we buy something for my Nuna? Like a bag or shoes?" "That's a good idea. Should I also buy a gift for Ellie? By the way, it should be around the time for them to arrive." "Huh. Who is coming?" "A person of high status should be here to meet you right about now." "Really?" Before I could finish my words, a woman walked into the store. She was tall and slender, a beauty. She wore an H-line skirt and a silk blouse, topped with a light beige coat. With each step, the sound of her high heels echoed in the air. It was easy to tell that she was the person of high status mentioned by Take-You. She walked straight into the store without waiting in line, and the staff startledly stepped aside, bowing their heads in unison towards her. Why are they so tense? The woman before me smiled warmly and extended her hand. "Hello, CEO Kong Jin-hoo. Who are you?" She introduced herself. "I'm Hwang Ju-yun, Executive Director of Gallery Department Store." Oh yes. Nice to meet you. So who exactly is Huang Jiyun? It's easy to assume she's highly capable for becoming an executive at such a young age, but I've heard a lot about you from my father. Father. Ah. My father's name is Huang Hyunyong and he is the manager of this department store. I see. Well, as someone once said, having wealthy parents is its own kind of talent. Even with everyone having their own aspirations, most choose to inherit the family business. This is how our country's chaebols exhibit such dedication to craftsmanship. She has done her makeup a bit heavily, but she is quite beautiful. Although she seems young, she looks to be in her late 20s, possibly early 30s. Executive Huang Jiyun brushed her hair back and said, I've met Park Sang-yeep before. Really? Since OTK companies' subsidiaries mainly operate abroad, they have little connection with domestic conglomerates. However, this is not the case for K companies' subsidiaries. Companies that started as small startups have grown and increasingly collaborated with large enterprises. Most of the time, the management of the subsidiaries takes care of things, but sometimes Senior Sang-yeep handles matters personally. Perhaps that's why he has built various connections in the business world. I had always wanted to meet CEO Kang Jin-hoo, and it's surprising we meet here. I assume you were shopping with a friend. Yes. My mother's birthday is coming up. Executive Huang Jiyun smiled. Oh, I was wondering why you were buying a woman's bag. It's a gift for your mother. Yes. Also, I plan to buy a present for my girlfriend while I'm here. At my words, she looked slightly taken aback. Oh, you have a girlfriend. People in line began to murmur while watching us. What? Is that Kang Jin-hoo? It's really you after the accident. I saw you on TV before. Really? Wow, that's amazing. To be the richest person in Korea at that age. But who is the man in the tracksuit next to you? Looks like we can't continue shopping. Executive Huang Jiyun seemed completely unconcerned about the gazes around us and kept talking to me. It just happens to be lunchtime. If you're okay with it, how about having a meal together? I personally have many things I'd like to hear from you. I couldn't tell if this was a business purpose or something else. Either way, it was tiring. I picked up my shopping bag. Thank you for the offer, but I have some work to do today. Huang Jiyun handed me her business card, looking a bit disappointed. Is that so? Here's my business card. If you ever come back, feel free to contact me. I'll make sure you can shop in the VIP lounge. I handed her my business card too. Well then, I'll take my leave. Drive safely. We left the store and got into the car. Take, you said while driving. That woman seems to be interested in you. It's probably for work. No way. My years of experience in dating sims tell me she definitely had a state window indicating her interest. What nonsense are you talking about? But even before the car left the department store parking lot, I received a text. Thank you so much for visiting our department store today. I'd love to treat you to a meal sometime, so please feel free to contact me whenever it's convenient for you. And NBSP. Huang Jiyun. Take, you said excitedly. I told you I was right. I silently blocked the number. The emergence of chaebols in our country began after the Korean War, during a period of rapid economic development. The number of first-generation chaebols was not that large. However, by the second generation their numbers had more than doubled, and by the third and fourth generations they became too numerous to count. With so many people in limited positions, the only way to accommodate them is to expand subsidiaries like octopus tentacles. This is why large corporations broaden their business scope into fields like restaurants and bakeries. In American terms, it's akin to an Apple subsidiary selling hot dogs and pizzas. Go Jun-hyung is one of those many fourth-generation chaebols. As a result, his wedding wasn't widely reported. Only a few brief articles were published. Nevertheless, the ceremony was quite lavish. Several dignitaries from politics and business were in attendance, including former Minister of Land, Infrastructure and Transport, and professors like Kim Myung-jun from the Business Administration Department. It seems many close classmates, including Yuri, also attended. As I mentioned before, I only sent a congratulatory gift. Did Sienna realize her dream? What are you thinking about? I shook my head at Ellie's question. Nothing. Really? Were you daydreaming again? Sorry. Every time I see Yuri I get lost in thought, so now I consider occasional daydreaming a habit. Ellie pouted slightly, looking upset. Are you listening? I just got promoted. Of course. I'm paying attention. Typically, one becomes a team leader around their 40s, so for Ellie to be a team leader at her age is quite impressive. Her rapid promotion is also due to the lack of personnel at the Korean branch. The legal team leader is a temporary position dispatched from the Asia branch. Now that he's returning and leaving a vacancy, Ellie has been promoted. But the most important reason must be that Ellie's abilities are outstanding. People might gossip that it's due to her close relationship with the branch manager. But given Hyunju's personality, who clearly distinguishes between public and private matters, that's nonsense. Ellie smiled brightly and said, "My salary has also gone up a bit. To celebrate, I'll treat everyone to lunch today." I pretended to be surprised. "You got promoted and your salary increased and you're only treating us to lunch?" At my words, Ellie rolled her eyes. What does a bourgeois capitalist expect from a proletarian salaried worker? Even with such words, Ellie's salary easily surpasses $300,000. Including various bonuses, it must exceed $500,000. We should have a gathering to celebrate. Oh, that's a great idea. I took a sip of coffee while looking out the window. Before I knew it, the season had fully turned to summer. The sun was shining brightly outside. Just a little bit of outdoor activity would make sweat pour down. Both Taekyu and I are weak against the heat. So these days we've been lounging under the air conditioning every day. On the other hand, Ellie seemed to become more beautiful as the days went by. The sight of her sipping coffee with her legs crossed was nothing short of a photo shoot. Given how people kept glancing our way, it seemed it wasn't just in my eyes. How are you going to spend your summer vacation? Vacation. When you think of summer, you think of vacation. And when you think of vacation, it's summer. Isn't Golden Gate still busy these days? Korea's financial regulations are among the strongest globally. Therefore, the legal team is always busy reviewing Korean laws and regulations ahead of launching new investment products. Ellie spoke decisively. Still, we must go on vacation. What's the point of working at the company otherwise? I nodded. That's true. Her words seemed so right that every office worker could relate. Do you have a place in mind? Ellie's eyes sparkled. How about the Maldives? I've wanted to go there for a long time. The Maldives. You haven't been, right? I've only heard the name. The Maldives, located in the Indian Ocean, consists of over 1,000 islands, each developed into luxury resorts. With its pristine natural environment, it is renowned as a vacation and honeymoon destination. I said without much thought, it would be fun if we all went together. All together? Even as I said it, I wondered if it made sense. Was it really necessary to go on summer vacation as a group? While pondering this, Ellie clapped her hands and exclaimed, how about we take your mom with us? She mentioned she hasn't traveled much abroad. When we took her to San Francisco last time, she was so happy. I subtly inquired, wouldn't that be uncomfortable for you? Of course not. We had so much fun last time. In any case, if it's a vacation, you'll just eat and sleep at the resort and occasionally go to the beach. But would it really be that comfortable? Is Hyunju Uni available? Ellie showed strong enthusiasm. I'll try to persuade Jessica. If the branch manager goes on vacation, other employees can take time off comfortably too. That's true again. In that sense, I should take the initiative and go on vacation too. I've worked too much lately, so this is a good opportunity to relax and enjoy. The Maldives. Just thinking about it made the blue ocean seem to ripple right before my eyes. I can't help but feel excited. I need to go buy a bikini. Pfft. For a moment I almost spat out my coffee. Ellie looked at my face and asked, what's wrong? Wearing a bikini at the beach is a given, right? Why, yeah, that's true. Ellie stared intently into my eyes. Don't tell me you're thinking something strange? I quickly averted my gaze. Of course not. Get up. Where are we going? Since we're talking about it, let's go buy a bikini. Oh, should we? I definitely need to go on this vacation. After work. I headed to a room-style izakaya with Taekyu. Soon after we ordered snacks and drinks, Henry arrived. The reason we gathered like this was that Henry had something important to say quietly. As soon as he sat down, he asked pointedly, what's going on? What do you mean? You said you'd help me. But why is there no news? Taekyu looked confused and asked, help with what? At that, Henry was flustered. Didn't you say you'd help me with Jessica? Taekyu and I exchanged glances. Did we say that? Henry became agitated. You definitely did. I heard it with my own 2 ears. I guess we must have. Taekyu crossed his arms and said, Usually don't Westerners handle their own relationships? Henry shouted back angrily, That's exactly the kind of racial prejudice I'm talking about. Why do you think white people can date coolly and freely? We're also just as clumsy and stupid in front of the girl we like. I nodded. That's true. Anyone who hears it would think it's a big boast. Looking back, I said I would help, but I actually couldn't care less. To make excuses, I was busy taking care of my own stuff. Meanwhile, it seems Henry's heart was burning up. Calm down, I said. Henry replied, sounding frustrated. What do you think I'm feeling? He even loosened his tie and downed another shot of soju. Does he even know what soju is before drinking it? At first he poured for himself, but finding that too bothersome, he started drinking straight from the bottle. I never thought I'd see a white guy guzzling soju like that in my life. Seeing him struggle like this makes me feel sorry. James had asked me to take good care of him. Is there a good way I can help? In that moment something popped into my mind. I grabbed the soju bottle from his hand and said, Stop drinking and listen. I actually have a plan prepared for you. Henry looked at me with suspicion. Really? I'm thinking of going on a summer vacation together this time. Taekyu looked at me incredulously and asked, That vacation was the plan for him? Yes. His became that way. It's simple why Henry couldn't approach me all this time, even though Hyunju doesn't have a boyfriend. He was so caught up in work that he didn't leave even a little gap. If we go on vacation, we'll have some leisure time, right? That means there'll be opportunities too, don't you think? Of course, I can't be sure. Hyunju's personality might lead her to bring work along. Henry looked as if he had grabbed a lifeline from the sky. Thank you. I won't forget this kindness. Well, it's not like it's a big favor. But where are you planning to go? I'm thinking of the Maldives. That's because Ellie wants to go there. Henry replied joyfully, That works out perfectly. My grandfather owns a villa in the Maldives. Really? Taekyu blinked in surprise and asked, What a coincidence that the villa is in the Maldives. How did this happen? This isn't a coincidence. There are villas not just in the Maldives, but also in the Caribbean and the Mediterranean, among other places. The Goldmans have always been a famous financial dynasty. Therefore, they have owned properties all over the world for a long time. The villa is just one of those properties. Yeah. This is what a wealthy life looks like. No need to book separate accommodations. After the unveiling of Karo's autonomous driving technology, the industry sought its own survival methods. Leading firms in the autonomous driving sector, Tesla, Google, and Apple, announced that they would form a technology partnership. They agreed to integrate their individually developed technologies into one, sharing patents and collaborating on future development. In other words, an anti-Karos alliance has formed. While synergy effects may arise from their cooperation, catching up to Karos' technological prowess in a short time will be difficult. The challenges to commercialization will also be significant. What will Unsung Motors do? For now, they are focused on developing hydrogen vehicles in collaboration with the government. The outline for the hydrogen vehicle set to launch in the second half of the year is gradually taking shape, and the government has provided strong support. President Park Si-hyung's approval ratings had fallen to rock bottom after the savings bank crisis, but recently a positive development emerged. It is none other than North Korea. Despite international sanctions, North Korea has heightened tensions on the Korean peninsula through nuclear development and missile tests. Like a fish in water, Park Si-hyung has been holding daily media briefings and convening the NSC, National Security Council, to increase pressure on North Korea. While the actual effectiveness of this pressure is uncertain, it has certainly rallied domestic support. Thanks to this, his approval ratings have recovered to around 30%. This shows that the term concrete support base is not unfounded. However, the bigger issue lies with the opposition party. Unlike the conservative bloc, which is tightly united around the Korean party, the progressive camp has been floundering, repeatedly disbanding and regrouping. Legislators moved around like assembling Lego, with parties splitting and merging back together. It's confusing even for observers. It truly is a disorganized mess. Already, rumors are circulating that a regime change is unlikely. We gathered in the CEO's office for a meal of jajangmyeon. Senior colleague Sang Yeep enjoyed life while working hard. He lived in an expensive penthouse with a monthly rent exceeding 20 million won and bought any car he fancied without hesitation. Recently he even contracted for a Lamborghini. What happened with that actress you were seeing last time? What happened? It just ended up as a fling. Considering we've only been in a situationship, haven't we made quite a bit of progress? Sang Yeep said while mixing his jjajangmyeon. More than that, we're still getting requests for lectures from OTK Gate. Don't you have any thoughts? I have none. The application for OTK Gate, a co-working space initiated by OTK Company and Golden Gate as part of their social contribution activities, had long since closed. Countless young people burned with passion there, dreaming of becoming the next Google or Facebook. As a result, the floors housing the co-working space were perpetually lit up 24 hours a day. Applications continued to pour in, but it was already full. Additional entries could only happen if existing companies left. For now, we decided to keep an eye on the situation and decide on expansion as vacancies occurred in the building. It would be nice if you went and shared some good insights. I don't really have anything to say. People think I can accurately predict future economic trends. Of course, that's a huge misconception. How could I know how the world will change or which industries will thrive? I just invest based on intuition. Instead, Sang Yeep or Ji-hong could go and share plenty of valuable insights. Golden Gate is also providing practical support. While eating jjajangmyeon and watching the news, a familiar face suddenly appeared. A young woman who got out of a car stood before the photo line with her head bowed. Cameras clicked away around her. Taekyu was taken aback. Why is that woman here? That was none other than Executive Director Hwang Ju-yeon, whom I had met at the department store. What is she doing that over there? There are some issues going on. The situation unfolded due to a recently released audio recording in the media. When the department store instructed small clothing companies to move their stores, the president rushed in pleading. However, right then Executive Director Hwang Ju-yeon unleashed a torrent of harsh insults for about 15 minutes, and when that wasn't enough, she threw objects. From her voice alone, it sounded like a madwoman screaming and rampaging. The president burst into tears, and only after he desperately pleaded did she stop insulting. When the recorded transcripts were released, people were outraged. Until that moment, Hwang Ju-yeon and the department store had not made any significant statements. They believed that over time public opinion would settle down as it always had. But it was the opposite. Starting with the transcripts, various misdeeds came to light like unearthing sweet potatoes. It turned out that the store had already relocated twice within a year, each time requiring new interior renovations. The interior company that held a monopoly contract with the department store was none other than a company owned by Hwang Ju-yeon and her brother. Moreover, they frequently organized promotional events, passing the costs on to the small businesses, and utilized the staff for personal tasks, treating them like servants. It was even reported that she slapped someone in front of other employees. Taekyu nodded, stating, "No wonder the atmosphere felt tense when she appeared at the department store. It was like the theme music for Darth Vader playing." So that's why the employees were so startled when she showed up? Interestingly, the person who leaked the transcripts was not the small business owner but a department store employee present at the scene. That employee, seeing the innocent small business owner being insulted and crying, felt it was wrong and decided to report the incident. According to him, such behavior was not new. Hwang Ju-yeon truly ruled like a queen within the department store. Despite this, the stores hesitated to voice complaints out of fear of being expelled from the department store. She often threatened stores that didn't comply, stating she would block them from entering not only Gallery department store but other department stores and malls as well. As these facts emerged, public opinion worsened, leading to a boycott of Gallery department store. In the end, President Hwang Hyun-young dismissed his daughter, and the prosecution began its investigation as if there was no other choice. She seemed fine when I saw her before. At my words, Senior Sang Yeep laughed. Well, that's because it's in front of the representative of OTK Company. She only has anger management issues in front of small business representatives. What kind of anger management issues can develop depending on who you're looking at? Fortunately, maybe she's been healed now. She lowered her head and calmly spoke. I apologize to the public for causing concern. I also express my regrets to those who were hurt because of me. The reporters simultaneously fired questions at her. Is it true that you verbally abused others? Do you admit to slapping your employees? Please explain the reason for your bullying against the partner companies. What could she possibly say? I will sincerely cooperate with the prosecution's investigation. With that statement, she walked into the prosecution office. After all, there's no way she could be arrested for something like this. Like other chaebols, she would act contrite and then return to management. Since there have been countless controversies over chaebol bullying, it's really not surprising anymore. When will we stop seeing chaebols entering the prosecution office? You said as he looked at me. But you've been there twice yourself. What exactly is my crime? I met Ellie after work. She arrived at the meeting place around 11 p.m. after finishing her work. Sorry, I'm really late. It's okay. Recently, Golden Gate's Korean branch has been extremely busy. They've started opening branches in the metropolitan area and cities and began fundraising. Typical funds raise capital after deciding on investment targets and methods, such as whether to invest in bonds, stocks, domestically or internationally, index or active funds, etc. However, Golden Gate is raising a blind fund. As the name suggests, a blind fund does not provide any prior information about what products it will invest in or how. Moreover, it is a closed-end fund. Unlike an open-end fund which allows redemptions at any time, a closed-end fund cannot be redeemed until the end of the investment period. Naturally, there's no principal guarantee and any losses fall on the clients. Investors fully trust the fund manager's judgment with their money. Because of this, without a solid reputation, it's tough to raise funds. But Golden Gate is the world's top IB. Even when combined with all domestic securities firms, they cannot compare to Golden Gate. Wealthy individuals flocked, and the 50 billion KRW fund closed within a few days. Since you became the team leader, it's hard to see you. Ellie said a bit sulkily. If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have accepted the promotion. Her expression was so cute that I couldn't help but smile. What about Hyunju? She's still working at the company. Should I grab some late-night snacks and visit you? At my suggestion, Ellie shook her head firmly. No, I don't want to go back to the office today. Have you made any travel plans yet? Of course. In the midst of working, I perfectly finished the research. She looks excited at the thought of going on vacation. If the company tries to stop her, that would be a big problem. More importantly, I have a gift for you. A gift. Ellie pulled out a square box wrapped in paper from her bag and handed it to me. I was taken aback. Is there something special about today? It's not my birthday. Is there an important anniversary I forgot? Ellie smiled playfully. Do I need a special occasion to give a gift? I've only received from you until now and I wanted to give something too. Really? At that moment I felt a wave of emotion. Can I open it now? Of course. I carefully unwrapped the paper. Inside the box was a watch. It was a Rolex. I was shocked. This must be expensive. For someone like me with a salary, yes, it is. But I got promoted and I thought it would suit you, so I decided to splurge. Ellie said with sparkling eyes. Try it on. I put the watch on my wrist as she instructed. It fit perfectly as if the strap had been pre-adjusted. Joyfully, I moved my wrist around to admire it, but suddenly felt a huge sense of unease. I feel like I'm missing something important. What could it be? When I suddenly stopped, Ellie looked at me and asked. What's wrong? Do you not like it? I shook my head. No, that's not it. Suddenly, I felt a wave of nausea and my head began to spin. As I stumbled, Ellie was taken aback. What's wrong? She quickly got up from across the table and came closer to me. What on earth is happening? Ellie shouted something while holding me, but I couldn't hear it well because of the ringing in my ears. My vision started to blur and I couldn't see clearly in front of me. It was just like back then. At that moment, a memory of the same premonition flashed before my eyes. San Francisco earthquake. As it was getting quite late, we had a quick meal and then stood up. I offered to take Ellie to the hotel, but she insisted on walking me to my house. Are you really okay? I smiled. I just felt a bit dizzy for a moment. Even after telling her several times that I was fine, Ellie still looked worried. Are you sure you don't want to go to the hospital? Well, considering I had once been unable to wake up for a week, it was understandable for her to be concerned. I'm really okay. If you feel weird at all, let me know immediately. Well, take you as home too. Still, promise me you'll contact me. Got it. After reassuring Ellie as best I could, I got her into the car. As soon as the car started moving, I rushed into my house. Taekyu was lying on the living room sofa watching an animated show. Did you have a good date? I turned off the TV. Why did you turn it off? That was a crucial scene. This isn't important right now. This is important to me. Taekyu, who had been shouting, froze in surprise when he saw my expression. What's wrong? Did something happen? I placed my hand on his shoulder and said, I made a mistake. Mistake about what? Remember the San Francisco earthquake? Why? It hasn't happened yet. Taekyu blinked in surprise. What do you mean? I saw Oracle again. Taekyu looked shocked by my words. What? Then what was the last earthquake about? I plopped down on the sofa. It probably didn't have anything to do with Oracle. Taekyu's expression showed confusion. Why did you suddenly see the same Oracle after being quiet for so long? I showed him the watch on my wrist. It's because of this. After seeing the watch, Taekyu looked back at my face. What's it got to do with this Rolex? I think I saw something while I was unconscious. Like a dream. What was the dream about? I don't know. Dreams often feel vivid while you're having them, but once you wake up, it's hard to remember. It wasn't until today that I even remembered I had a dream. Try to recall something. I'm trying. The dream was vague and unclear, like a fragmented puzzle. I stared at the watch on my wrist, lost in thought. Suddenly one thing came to my mind. I muttered, a building made of glass. Yeah. It was an Apple store. The building's facade, entirely glass, is one of the characteristics of the Apple store. You saw the Apple store in your dream? That means it's related to the San Francisco earthquake. It seems that way. Wait a minute. Taekyu quickly turned on his computer and opened Google Maps. There are a total of 5 Apple stores around San Francisco. In Street View, the Apple store and its surroundings were clearly visible. I've been to San Francisco several times, but only for work, going back and forth between the hotel and the office. I hadn't really explored the city. Perhaps that's why the streets on the screen looked all unfamiliar. I spent a long time examining the 5 Apple stores from various angles. However, I couldn't figure anything out just from the screen. I think I need to go to San Francisco. At my words, Taekyu swallowed hard. Isn't it dangerous? What if an earthquake strikes while you're there? He made a valid point. It would be fortunate if it ended up being another offshore earthquake, but if not, there could be significant danger. It won't happen right away. How do you know that? I just have a feeling. So far, Oracle has never been wrong. Therefore, a major earthquake is bound to occur. The key question is when it will happen, and knowing the exact location and magnitude of the earthquake is also crucial. To figure that out, we need more information. Just in case, I'll go by myself. What if you collapse again like last time? I'm coming with you. It could be dangerous. Taekyu smiled and said, then we definitely should go together. We headed straight to San Francisco. We told the company and others that it was for work. Since several subsidiaries of OTK Company are located in Silicon Valley, it wouldn't be unusual to go on a sudden business trip. Taekyu fell asleep as soon as the plane took off. I gazed out the window, lost in thought. What was Oracle trying to tell me? It was thanks to the foresight that I could come this far from having nothing. Much changed because of it. What if I hadn't seen the foresight and hadn't invested? Taekyu and I would have lived ordinary lives instead of running OTK Company. If that had been the case, I wouldn't be on this plane to America now. Still, the AL-6 explosion and Brexit would have happened. But some of the companies we invested in might have collapsed without timely funding or remained mediocre firms. Karos would still be in the palm of Eun Sung, and Professor Kim Ho-min would have remained at Korea University. And instead of Ronald, Diane would have become President of the United States. Thanks to this ability, I was able to grasp the key to the future. Startups, autonomous technology, new material batteries, and so on. Now the time to reap the rewards was just around the corner. Some experts predicted that within a few years, Karos would surpass Toyota to become the largest car company in the world. And that didn't seem impossible for me either. Everything was going smoothly. Suddenly, I recalled Warren Buffett's question. He asked me why I invest. That question transcended merely asking about making money. It ultimately led to what I truly want. When will I be able to find that answer? As soon as I set foot in the airport, An intense sense of unease enveloped me just like before. Was this a warning that this land was dangerous? The customs officer, examining my passport, looked at me with a surprised expression. Having verified my name and face, he likely knew who I was. What is the purpose of your visit to the United States? Business trip. There were no further questions. Have a nice trip. Thank you. We exited the arrivals area. Outside the airport, 2 white security personnel and 2 vehicles were waiting. As I mentioned, I planned to drive myself and check the traffic situation in San Francisco. The security officer handed me the car keys. The vehicle is equipped with GPS. We will follow behind you. Please don't chase if you lose me. I'll contact you if I need additional security. Understood. We got into the car. Taikyu took the wheel and I set the navigation. First, we decided to look around the northern part of San Francisco. After about 30 minutes of driving, I spotted a glass-walled building. Taikyu parked the car and I got out to survey the surroundings. What do you think? Any feelings coming through? I'm not sure. I took several photos with my smartphone and got back in the car. The same was true for the next place. We had already visited 3 locations, but nothing particular came to mind. Before long, it seemed like it was rush hour as suddenly cars poured onto the road. The road conditions in San Francisco were no better than those in Gangnam. As traffic worsened, cars repeatedly stopped and started. The sidewalks were also overcrowded with people heading home. By evening, the city was full of life. Look, there's one more. Should we stop in front? Yeah. Just pause for a moment. Taxi driver Taekyu hurriedly pulled over. I got out of the car and stood in front of the intersection with the traffic light. Even though it was clearly my first time here, I felt a strange familiarity. Across the street, I saw a glass building. It's the Apple Store. There were countless people on the street. A man in sportswear jogging, a woman walking her large dog, a young man riding a scooter with a backpack, an elderly couple walking hand in hand, and a couple sitting by the roadside sipping takeout coffee. I looked around the buildings. Inside the offices that still had lights on, people of various races were working. At that moment, random scenes from a dream began to flash in my mind. The scattered puzzle pieces were starting to fit together. People lined up in front of the building, a suited white man standing next to me, the Rolex watch on his wrist, the road shaking and splitting like a wave, men and women fleeing in screams, collapsing skyscrapers. What had I seen? Was it just an illusion or was it the future? As I snapped back to reality, the traffic light had changed. The halted pedestrians quickly crossed the street. This is it. Taekyu wore a look of disbelief. This is where the earthquake happened? I nodded. I'm sure. The spot I was standing was an intersection in Palo Alto. It was the southern part of San Francisco and the heart of Silicon Valley. We entered a nearby hotel. The intersection with the Apple Store was visible outside the window. Did this hotel also collapse? The current smartphone market is fiercely competitive in the premium segment. Apple announced it would launch the Apple Phone Z to commemorate the 10th anniversary of the Apple phone. At the scene I witnessed, a long line formed in front of the Apple Store. That day was the launch day for the Apple Phone Z, and there were people gathered to buy the new product. The exact specifications and schedule have not been disclosed yet, but the launch date is around the end of September. Taekyu's face went pale. Are you saying there will be a major earthquake in 2 months? If what I saw is correct, then yes. Oracle had provided me with financial information until now. And this is also related to finance. The financial market will be in chaos. A tremendous number of people will die, systems will collapse, and the economy will take a severe hit. Stock prices will plummet while gold and raw materials will skyrocket. And this could present a tremendous opportunity to make money. If investments are made at the right time, returns greater than Brexit could be achieved. Most importantly, the scale of capital now is different from then. If done correctly, it could generate billions of dollars. It's fascinating that such thoughts arise even in this situation. Wait a moment, I'll go wash up. I went to the bathroom to gather my thoughts and took a shower. By that time, Taekyu was still blankly sitting on the bed. What do you think would happen if someone predicted the 9/11 attacks and invested? The attacks led to nearly 3,000 deaths and over 6,000 injuries. It was the worst disaster on American soil in history. Yet, amid such circumstances, some people made a fortune. After the attacks, the global stock market plummeted, and an unprecedented options windfall occurred. There were people making money back then. And those who invested in options at that time were invariably investigated by U.S. intelligence agencies for terrorist connections. What are you talking about? I'm saying it could happen again. Terrorism may raise suspicions, but natural disasters are different. We can't cause earthquakes ourselves. That's true. I had faced countless criticisms while investing. From the L6 explosion, Brexit, to Ronald's election, each time others lost, we reaped astronomical profits in the market. But I didn't cause the L6 explosion. Brexit was decided by the British people, and Ronald's election was determined by the American voters. So what about this situation? Until now, it was a matter of whether we would make money, but this time it's a matter of human lives. I recalled the scene I saw in my dream. The ground upheaved and buildings collapsed in a chain reaction. If what I saw was real, a disaster on the scale of 9/11 would seem trivial. If one were to predict that and invest in put options or derivatives, and if that fact became known to the public, it wouldn't just end with insults or criticism. No one would tolerate it. I certainly wouldn't. You nodded. That's right. Nothing is more important than human life. For a while we were speechless. We realized anew that our future actions could determine the lives and deaths of countless people. After a moment, you asked, is there no way to prevent the earthquake? How can humans prevent natural disasters? Decades ago, humans traveled to the moon in a spacecraft. Since then, science and technology have advanced remarkably. Yet there has yet to be a way to prevent natural disasters like volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, tsunamis, and typhoons. Still, we can be prepared. Natural disasters strike suddenly, causing significant damage. However, if we can anticipate and prepare, we can greatly reduce the impact. Then we just need to make them prepare. The real problem starts now. How can we inform people that an earthquake is going to occur? Well, you fell silent. I had relied on foresight for investments until now. Yet no one considered it as foresight. They merely thought I had an exceptional perspective on the market. It didn't matter that they didn't believe me. As CEO, I was in a position to give orders. I could decide and command without needing understanding or agreement. But this time it's completely different. I'm not in a position to make decisions, and I'm in a place where I need to persuade others. However, this goes beyond mere prediction. It enters the realm of foresight. Moreover, while finance might be my field, an earthquake is entirely unrelated to me. True. I can't really say it's foresight. Would anyone believe me if I claimed to see the future? Then what will you do? After thinking for a while, I finally spoke. I need to find someone who can foresee on my behalf. Prediction and foresight are distinctly different. Foresight is supernatural and irrational, while prediction is based on scientific and logical reasoning. This is why so-called investment experts fit various arguments together to predict future economic trends and stock movements. So, who can predict earthquakes and warn people about them? Naturally, it's the experts in the field. California has long suffered from earthquakes due to its location along the Pacific Ring of Fire and the influence of the San Andreas Fault. Major earthquakes occurred in San Francisco in 1906 and 1989, resulting in thousands of casualties, and a strong quake collapsed buildings in Santa Barbara in 1925. Countless other large and small earthquakes have also been recorded. Scholarship develops out of necessity. Thus, geophysics, geology, and seismology have been actively researched in California, producing many renowned scholars and professors. I searched for experts and relevant materials believed to be reputable and authoritative within the U.S. on the Internet. Often overlooked in daily life, earthquakes still occur continuously around California. Recently, a significant quake offshore shook areas around San Francisco and near LA. Fortunately, there were no casualties or property damage. One person stumbled at the airport and hurt their head, but they recovered and were discharged a few days later. Although anxiety over earthquakes has recently heightened, academic consensus indicates that the probability of a major earthquake occurring in California is less than 5%, with the likelihood of it happening in the near future virtually close to zero. Thinking this way seems reasonable. While searching, an article caught my attention. It was promotional material for a book published by a publisher. Let's go out. Where to? To the bookstore. I want to buy a book. We wandered around a few nearby bookstores. Finally, we managed to find 2 dusty books hidden under a shelf. The book was a hefty 1,300 pages long. Take-You closed the book without finishing even 5 pages. I'm getting off here. There's usually a reason why something doesn't sell. Even though it was incredibly boring, I stayed up all night to finish it. The book was filled with unnecessary content, but the conclusion was that a mega earthquake, surpassing the 1964 Alaska earthquake or the 2011 Tohoku earthquake, would hit California this year. The author claimed that to prepare for this, the population in Southern California and the West Coast should be relocated. In any field, there are those who make extreme predictions. Such individuals are often treated as oddballs or ignored. Yet occasionally those predictions can be right. The important fact is that this author is not just a random person but a professor at Cal Poly, which fits perfectly with my criteria. I said to Take-You, who had just woken up, "I need to meet this person. Where is he?" "He's a professor at Caltech, so he must be at Caltech." "Where is Caltech?" "It's Caltech, so it's in California." Talking like this felt somewhat like a word game. I searched for it on my smartphone. 370 miles isn't too far from here, at least in American terms. How many kilometers is that? 600 kilometers. Take-You was surprised. That's really far. So I said it's not too far by American standards. I threw the car keys to Take-You. "Let's go. You drive." "When are we going to cover 600 kilometers? Can't we just take a flight?" Take-You grumbled but still grabbed the steering wheel. "Hey, we've arrived." At Take-You's words, I opened my eyes. Maybe because I had stayed up all night, I had dozed off without realizing it. "Already?" "What do you mean, already?" "We've been driving for more than 5 hours. We had arrived at the California Institute of Technology, also known as Caltech." I got out of the car and stretched. The campus was smaller than I had imagined. If I had passed by without looking closely, I wouldn't have thought it was a university. Regardless, this place, along with the Massachusetts Institute of Technology (MIT), is considered one of the best engineering schools in the U.S. Thinking I was at such a world-famous university gave me a nostalgic feeling. MIT may seem like just an engineering school from its name, but it's a comprehensive university. Besides engineering, its programs in economics, politics, and the humanities are also at a world-class level. The most famous professor isn't even an engineering professor but Noam Chomsky, known as the father of modern linguistics. In contrast, Caltech solely focuses on engineering. Take-You nodded as if he understood and asked, "How does it compare to Korean universities?" "If we're just talking about engineering, there's no comparison. While Korean universities gather the best talents in Korea, Caltech attracts the best talents from around the world. In fact, Caltech professors and alumni have won over 30 Nobel Prizes, while Korean universities haven't won a single one yet, though Professor Kim Ha-man might soon." Even during the break, the campus had many students visible. Just then, a group of students passed in front of us. I approached them and asked, "Hello. Can I ask you a question?" To my surprise, a young Asian man among them replied in Korean. "Are you Korean?" I nodded my head. "That's right. Nice to meet you. I'm Kim Sungju. I'm an exchange student from Korea." "Yes. Nice to meet you. I'm here to meet a professor from the geology department." "Where should I go?" "Oh, the geology department." He paused, staring intently at my face. "By any chance?" At that moment, a white female student behind us shouted as if she had realized something. "Jin-Hoo Kong." Suddenly, other students also turned to look at me. "Oh, now that you mention it. Is it really Jin-Hoo Kong? Oh my gosh. Jin-Hoo Kong is right in front of me." In an instant, dozens of students gathered around, excitedly greeting me. But someone suddenly asked a question. "Have you found a way to solve the autonomous driving trolley dilemma?" That question triggered a flood of inquiries from all directions. Have the effects of the new material-based anode active substance on the separator been confirmed? I have a question about the FACEIT algorithm. Regarding machine learning. The developers would know these things. How would I know? I only invested money. Anyway, as people gathered, it became easier for me to ask questions. "I'm here to see Professor Kiran Mohan. Does anyone know him?" A black woman holding a wrapped hamburger raised her hand. "I'm Professor Kiran Mohan's teaching assistant." "That's great. I'm here to meet the professor. I'll guide you. Please follow me." After shaking hands with the gathered students, I headed with her to meet Professor Mohan. Professor Kiran Mohan from California Institute of Technology. Currently he was in a research lab on campus. However, dozens of boxes piled up on one side made it look more like a storage room or a multi-level marketing office to an outsider. His teaching assistant, Carrie Cartwright, said, "How about we clear these boxes out?" Professor Mohan shook his head. "Just leave them. We might get contacted by online bookstores about stock shortages." Carrie wanted to say, "That's unlikely. We're more likely to get more returns," but she stayed silent. Professor Mohan had dedicated his life to studying earthquakes. He had written a comprehensive book summarizing his research, but sadly people showed little interest in earthquakes, and the academic community didn't accept his claims. The book failed both as a popular and academic publication. Even the first limited print run remained entirely in stock. While it can't be solely blamed on that, the publishing house went bankrupt a few months ago, leaving the remaining books destined for the recycling center. Professor Mohan couldn't bear to see his life's work turned into waste. So he moved all the books from the publisher's warehouse to his lab, resulting in an already cramped space becoming even tighter. How's the research funding application going? While academia and research are noble pursuits, it's challenging to proceed without money. He had originally received funding from the state government, but cuts in the relevant budget led to the support ending. So this time he had applied for research funds from the school. Carrie sighed internally and replied, "No contact yet. We might just have to wait a bit longer." The field of seismology doesn't directly translate its results into funding, so it inevitably gets pushed down the priority list in the budget. The existing budget has already been allocated to others. At this rate, it will be difficult to resume research in the second half of the year. As lunchtime approached, Carrie went out to buy a hamburger, while Professor Mohan leaned back in his chair, reading another professor's paper. Josh Brown. He is a highly recognized and famous scholar at MIT. Professor Mohan skimmed through Brown's paper while sipping his cold coffee. Brown asserted that there would not be a major earthquake in the next 10 years, backing it up with several arguments. However, he predicted that small earthquakes could happen at any time, and if a major earthquake were to occur, it was more likely to be in Mexico rather than the US. Professor Mohan scoffed as he read. This foolish friend doesn't know what he's talking about. Suddenly there was a commotion outside. Perhaps a celebrity had arrived. The noise from outside grew louder. As he tried to get up to see what was happening, Carrie ran into the lab. "Professor, a guest has come to see you." "I'm busy right now. If it's not an important guest, send them away." "They're important guests." At that, Professor Mohan reluctantly closed the paper he had been reading. "Is it the dean?" "Not exactly." "Then tell them to wait until I'm done. Jinhu Kong is here. He really wants to meet you." At those words, Professor Mohan was taken aback. "Did you say Jinhu Kong? The CEO of OTK Company?" "Yes, that's right. There are probably very few people in the US who don't know that name. He was evaluated as the most outstanding investor since Warren Buffett, investing in various startups based in California, earning tremendous money and gaining fame. In California, opinions about Jinhu Kong were sharply divided following the earthquake. Many disliked him because he played a crucial role in Ronald's election win. California, characterized by a diverse population, high income and educational levels, had traditionally shown strong support for the Democratic Party. In this election, residents of California overwhelmingly voted for Diane. However, the result was Ronald's victory. The shock was immense as it wasn't so much about supporting Diane, but rather a strong refusal to accept Ronald. Is it any wonder that protests demanding a re-election broke out? Professor Mohan looked incredulous. "Jinhu Kong came to see me?" He hadn't heard any news of him being in America. And unless he was a well-known economist, why would an earthquake scientist like him be sought after? Carrie said, her eyes shining. Could it be for research funding? He gave a substantial amount to his alma mater's professor to set up a research lab. This became known because that professor developed a new material to replace cobalt and surprised the world. Could such an opportunity come to me as well? Professor Mohan tried to hide his excitement. If he heard of my reputation, that might be possible. He must have come from far away. Let's welcome him inside. Understood. A moment later, two young Asian men entered the laboratory, guided by Carrie. Professor Mohan recognized Jin Hu Kong at once upon seeing his face. "You're the professor who wrote this thick book, right?" Jin Hu held up the book towards him. The book is a masterpiece that contains his lifetime of research. The title was, "The Big One is Coming."